Good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view. And of course, there's a plane flying over. All right, so let's wait for that plane to go by to get a little bit farther away. Okay, so I like the shade, but it's cold in the shade. So I want to stand in the sun, but one of us is going to get blinded. One of us is going to get blinded here. All right, so good morning. It's Mona. This is my morning view, and this is Spring Edition 2026. 2026, and it is May 1st. How did that happen? May 1st, already here. Lots of things going on this month. All right, so May 1st. Fiesty Friday. Feisty Friday. And I'm not feeling the feisty. I am just not feeling the feisty right now. But we're going to see what we can do. Whether we can get some energetic energy into this video. All right. Today, I'm talking about the fig tree. I always wondered about the fig tree when Jesus came by and he found no fruit, and so he cursed the tree, and then it withered up and died. Okay, and it said that the fruit, that it was not the season for fruit, and he was searching for the fruit, and there was none, and I thought, well, that's kind of unfair. It's kind of unfair. But then when you start doing some research, just a little bit of research, and I found out this years ago, that there's a harvest called the Berba. I may be pronouncing that incorrectly. But basically what it is with the fig tree, it may have some buds that did not come to full fruit in the fall. And in the spring, it starts to grow. And so before the season of the fruit, there could be fruit on the tree that it may not be as sweet. But it's there and it's edible. And so that's what Jesus was looking for. He was looking for that basically that late bud, right? He was looking for that late bud. And there was no fruit there. Now, prior to this, probably several months before, he gave a parable of the fruit tree. Now, the parable of the fruit tree had to do with, he had just finished talking to them about a tower that was over Siloam, over Siloam, the pool of Siloam. It had fallen and it killed 18 people. And so he had just finished talking about that. I think that's a different. There's another. I remember there's another time. I may be getting them mixed up, where there was a kerfuffle, a scuffle between the Romans, and a bunch of people died with a tower as well. So I may be getting those a little bit mixed up. Let me remind you, this is not a Bible study. This is my morning view. I'm out here. I'm thinking about stuff. I'm bringing the dog out so that she can do whatever she needs to do. And so I'm out here just thinking. That's why this is called impromptu. It's impromptu because it's just me thinking, and half the time I don't know what I'm going to say. Most of the time, not half, most of the time, I don't know what I'm going to say until I hit go, until the camera is running. And then it's like, oh, yes, okay, I will talk about that. So, for the most part, it comes from just stuff that's here and it's being pulled out of the drawer. So sometimes, I might get a few things mixed up in my head, and that's why it's important to comment. That's why it's important to comment. And I don't get to cover everything because, there's some subjects that you can take days talking about. Okay. And so, sometimes a shortened version doesn't really explain it well. That's why I take my time a little bit with this to try to explain myself. And sometimes I have to go on later. I go, y'all misunderstood. So I have to explain myself a little bit different. Okay, so that's my disclaimer about the subject matter of the tower falling, because I could be getting a couple more instances in my head mixed up. All right, so that's not the important part. What we're talking about is Shnikes. And the choir begins. What we're talking about is the fig tree. So the parable of the fig tree came right after he was talking about this incident. And the fig tree represents, in this parable, the fig tree represents the nation of Israel, because the nation of Israel is represented as a fig tree quite a bit in the Bible, and it's also representing the individual. So this isn't just for the nation of Israel. This is for an individual, right? So it has two meanings here for the fig tree. So because I am not talking about Israel right now, I am talking about the individual. I'm going to be referencing that as us, right? So the landowner, the person that owns the farm, right? That's God. God the Father, He's there. And there's this fig tree that is not producing fruit for the past 3 years. 3 years, significant. Jesus was on the earth walking around for 3 years, and it's like He's ready to take the axe and put it to the tree. He's about done. And the gardener, the groundskeeper, he represents Jesus. He's our mediator. He comes in and he's like, let's give it a little bit more time. Let me nurture it. Let me do this and that. And so he takes care of the tree. And so he says, okay, fine, I'll give you 1 year. 1 year. If the fruit doesn't produce, if the tree doesn't produce fruit, it's gone. All right. So you got to think about in the eyes of a landowner, they have so much acreage. And if there's a tree, I live near an apple orchard. If there is a tree that is not producing for years, right? You have every right to take down that tree and put up a tree that will produce. And so here we are with giving them 1 more year, which means He has a limit. There is a limit to allowing a tree not to produce fruit. All right. Now, like I said, in the backside, I was talking about how this berba crop, that it's the fruit that didn't mature at the end of harvest, but matures after spring. Timely, since this is May 1st. Spring's been here for a little bit. It's been here since mid-March. Doesn't feel like it. Hasn't felt like it. And we are a little bit more north than Israel is. They're a little bit closer to the equator. So they have spring a little earlier than us. So what happens is it grows and matures, and it's just not as sweet, right? But it's edible. All right, so that's what Jesus was looking for. He was looking for fruit. He was hungry, looking for fruit, and there was no fruit. Now, in that case, he was looking at Israel. But remember, it can represent us as individuals, or it could represent Israel. And so, when you're looking at the Bible and you're saying a lot of times people will take whatever they want and say, oh, that was for a specific person, for a specific time, for a specific this, for a specific that. And it's when do you separate what was specific and what was not specific? Well, what is specific and what is not specific? Because the Word is living and alive and for us today. Some of it may have been for specific, but we can learn and glean from that specific, right? Just like John the Baptist, when he had to decrease so that Christ could increase. He was the last prophet. Christ was there to fulfill all the prophets. But John the Baptist was still alive. So he had to decrease in order for Christ to increase. Sad, but it was specific. He doesn't want us to decrease. He wants us to increase. We're called to multiply. We are called to increase. And so we are called to bear fruit, right? We're called to bear fruit. John talked about bringing a fruit that was worthy of repentance, right? Some other things about the fig tree. It not only talked about the nation of Israel, it talked about its health, its prosperity, and its something else. There was something else that maybe it was its peace. There was 3 things. I can't remember the other one. If you remember, go ahead and put it in the comments. So there was it's health, well-being, and prosperity. Definitely health and prosperity. I'm trying to remember that third one. I can't remember the third one. Okay, so the fig tree is what Adam and Eve used. They used the leaves from a fig tree to cover themselves. They used fig leaves to cover themselves. And it's interesting that John the Baptist was talking about bringing fruit that is worthy. A tree with just leaves. A tree without leaves. A tree with only leaves. A tree with only leaves that does not bear fruit. And that's what Jesus saw in this tree when he went to look for that Berba crop. And he goes in and it had the appearance of having fruit. There has been years where this tree, it's got some little things on it where it's going to have berries. It's a little black cherry tree, wild black cherry tree. My husband hates it because it drops onto the deck. All these purpley berries, and then the bees come, and it just drives my husband crazy. But there has been years when it didn't really produce anything. It really didn't produce anything. There was times when it just wasn't there. We didn't have a mess on the deck. My husband liked it when that was the case. Sometimes bearing fruit can be messy. So Christ is looking for the fruit, not the leaves. Not the leaves. Covering ourselves with leaves does nothing. Giving us an appearance that we bear fruit, but we don't, is nothing. Okay, I'm starting to feel the feisty. I'm finally starting to feel the feisty. I just had to warm up a little bit. Are you one of those people covered in leaves? Covered in leaves. Am I one of those people covered in leaves? Oh, it looks good. It looks like there's fruit there. But when Jesus looks for it, it's not there. The fruit's not there. And we live on borrowed time. None of us know when our last day is. None of us know when we won't be here anymore. So are you going to wait for the harvest? Or maybe you can find some old buds. Maybe you can find some old buds. Nurture that tree. Nurture that tree. And bring forth at least a burba crop. The late crop or the early crop, depending on what you're looking at. Because it's in spring. So it's a early crop, but it's not. It's the late crop. Because it was the buds from the fall before. And they survived through the winter. And they got nourished in the spring. And they produced fruit. But not all trees do. Some trees look alive. But they're not so alive. We have a lot of trees here that have died. A lot of trees that have died. And a lot of times the trees that are dead are being held up by the vines that choke them. And so they're full of greenery. And whether that's poison ivy or whether it's this other invasive vine that grows up around here and takes out the tree. And it produces a bark on the vine. It could be a really thick. Looks like it could be a tree, but it's not a tree. It's a vine. And it chokes out the trees. And there's also trees that have disease and other problems and infestations, bug infestations, things like that. Multiple different types of trees that are no longer thriving. We had multiple beech trees. We had to take the one beech tree down because it was so big. If it was to fall in one direction, it would hit the neighbor's house. If it fell in our direction, it would hit our house. You know, no matter what direction it fell, it was going to damage something. So we had to take it down. And then we had two beautiful beech trees back here. One holds our bird feeder. I'm waiting for the bird feeder not to be able to be on the tree because that's the bird feeder tree limb. Because it's dead. It's already broken off in multiple places. You can see how it's, got this little triangle thing holding up where it topped itself. There's just massive amounts of different trees in the area. And I'm just talking about the beach, but that's not even the worst of them. Okay? So there's a lot of trees that are dead. And you can recognize that they're dead. But then when those vines are growing up in the springtime and in the summertime, they are flourishing green looking. They look like the tree could be alive until you get up and you inspect it. And then it's like, no, that's nothing but poison ivy. Or no, that's nothing but a strangling vine. And just knowing how this tree has not produced fruit at times. We thought it was dying. It was weeping sap. massively, just like it was bleeding out one year. And we thought that was it, that it was going to be gone. A lot of branches are broken off up there from it being not well. And I think it's going to be okay this year. I think it's going to be okay. We gave it time. We've done that to all the trees that looked like they were dying. We were like, let's give it time. Prayed over the tree. Some of them are still standing, but not all of them. And some of them just died. But there were some that we had to take out because they were detrimental to its surrounding. Another plane. So I'll try to talk a little bit louder than the plane. When we're talking about the fig tree, you know, we talked about its meaning. It's again, I couldn't remember that third word of what it represented, but definitely health and prosperity. And I really think it had to do with something calming, something spiritual. It was something spiritual maturity. There it is. Just took a minute. Took a hot minute. Having my head in the sun, waking it up, getting it not dormant anymore. Okay, so spiritual maturity was the third thing to the representation of what the fig tree represented. And Nathaniel was sitting under the fig tree. That may have been in reference to what he was thinking about, and in those areas, those three areas of his life, and not necessarily under a physical fig tree. And that's why he said, "My Lord, my God," because he was thinking, oh, he knows where I'm at. He gets me. He knows what I was thinking. He was ready for that next step of spiritual maturity, for study, for learning. So Nathaniel is mentioned sitting under a fig tree. And that represents that you're under the covering of that health, spiritual maturity, and prosperity. So at this point, are we going to be like Nathaniel? Are we ready for the next step? Are we willing to follow Jesus? Are we going to do all we can to cultivate the tree? Mind you, the tree doesn't cultivate itself. Just a reminder in case you thought that works could get it. Oh, no, works does not get you there. The tree has its part. The tree has to produce fruit, right? I'm always telling you that it is a partnership. It is a relationship. It is something you do together. God's not doing it all. There is a human part, and there's a natural part, that's our part, the natural part, and then there's the supernatural part, and that's God's part. Okay, so our job is to produce fruit, but we have to allow the cultivation process through Jesus. We have to allow that nurturing. Needs to be watered, fertilized. I've had to tell you before about fertilizer. When you think of fertilizer, what do you think of? Now, some people think of chemicals because there's chemical fertilizer, and we know that that is ultimately not healthy to have chemical fertilizer. So what is, natural fertilizer, right? What is the natural fertilizer? And sometimes that fertilizer can smell. I live next to a farm. Okay? Without saying it. Well, Paul said it. It's equal to a pile of dung. I said it nice. Sometimes stuff happens. Helps us grow. So you need water, you need fertilizer, you need sunshine. Some things don't. Mushrooms don't. Mushrooms need shade. But let me tell you, they used to grow where it was well fertilized. I remember gathering mushrooms when I was a kid. And yeah, they liked growing near old cow patties. That was a great spot to find them. Oh. So we need all those things in order to grow, to produce fruit. That was the whole point of the gardener cultivating, in order to get the tree to produce fruit. But there's a time limit. And it's not necessarily a year, like in the thing, give me a year to cultivate this. Because if you remember, it wasn't a year after he gave that story when he was crucified. Probably several months. But we're all on borrowed time. So go ahead, and I'm going to give you the commercial now. Go ahead and go over to YouTube, to Mona E. Harrison. It's different than my Facebook profile. Mona E. Harrison. Like, share, comment, both on Facebook and on YouTube. Subscribe. It's either there or there. Whichever button that says subscribe, go ahead and hit that. Hit notifications. Get all the bells and whistles. Go over to Mona E. Harrison YouTube, because Facebook takes these down. And if you missed this one live, tonight this will be uploaded. In the meantime, you can check out other videos that I've done. This one will be uploaded tonight. And you can go over to YouTube and watch them on fast speed. I mean, yes, some of you have speed controllers. I have not seen a speed controller on my phone. I don't know if Apple has it, but I know Android does not. So, with no speed controller on the phone, I can't watch the videos fast speed. On YouTube, you can. YouTube has it already built in. So go ahead and go there and hit speed. Hit the speed probably about 150. You may be able to do it too. It's possible to do it too, because I think I talk slow enough that you can hit it on 2. There are some people that I can't watch it on fast speed because they talk way too fast, way too high pitched, and it takes me a while to catch it all. And so it's like, nope, they're just going to be at regular speed. But I try to watch things on fast speed. I don't think shorts can be fast speed. I don't know. But these long ones, definitely catch it on fast speed while you're doing chores, while you're doing laundry, while you're resting. All right. Blessings, everybody. Have a great day. I will see you on Monday. Yes, it wasn't as feisty as it could have been. It's a Feisty Friday. I'm thinking about getting some merch, guys. I'm thinking about getting Feisty Friday shirts first. because that is some of your favorite videos is Feisty Friday, when I take the time to offend, and sometimes even offend myself. All right. Blessings. Have a great day, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye.